Zohran thinks Donald Trump is scared of him. Just look how terrified the president is. This is him at the American Business Forum in Miami earlier today. Terrified, clearly terrified. Joining me now is political advisor and commentator CJ Pearson. CJ, I want to hear from you about what the Trump administration will do to help persecuted Christians in Nigeria. But let's start with Mamdani, and the president had this to say about a communist taking over New York City.
But the communists, Marxists, socialists and globalists had their chance and they delivered nothing but disaster. And now let's see how a communist does in New York. We're going to see how that works out. And we'll help him. We'll help him. We want New York to be successful.
CJ, Donald Trump actually thinks politically this is a win for Republicans. It might be a whole lot of pain for New Yorkers, though, but it will serve as a warning to other cities and states.
You know, you're exactly right, Rita. And sometimes the most important lessons learned are the hardest ones to learn. And I think that will be the case that New York City has to endure, unfortunately. But I'll tell you this, what we do know historically is that everywhere that communism and socialism has been experimented with, it has failed. It has been a failed experiment. And so I think President Trump is right on in his prediction. I think the people of New York City will soon realize just what they bought and paid for here. But I got to tell you, as someone from the South, we don't want them to flee and come down south to escape their problems, especially if they're going to bring their politics with them.
Yeah, well, that's a good point, because we've already got governors like Governor Abbott in Texas very worried about this. But then other governors like DeSantis in Florida, they're rubbing their hands. They're lowering property taxes, pretty much eliminating them, and just making it even more attractive for New Yorkers to flee there.
Yeah, see, my thing about that is, here, if you're going to come, you're a New York Republican who wanted the, low electricity prices, the lower prices overall, but you're a card-carrying Republican, come on down, bring your politics with you, that's fine. My problem is with the people who voted for this nonsense, voted for this mess, are going to realize the consequences of their own actions and then want to flee and get out of town. Because here's the deal about these people. When the going gets tough, these people get going. And where do they get going? To red states. But the problem with them is they bring their politics with them. You don't get to be a political refugee and get to turn the place that you're fleeing to into the place that you fled from.
Now, CJ, we saw almost immediately with Mamdani after he won a switch from that lovable, affable, always smiling, all-inclusive, tolerant, friendly commie to a hardline hectoring commie. The mask slipped almost immediately. Even the lefties on CNN noticed that. And Mamdani started his victory speech by quoting a communist, or a socialist if you want to be generous. And this next statement has plenty of people worried.
We will prove that there is no problem too large for government to solve and no concern too small for it to care about.
CJ, what can you say about that? Conservatives did try to warn these dim-witted New Yorkers that were dazzled by promises of free stuff.
We did try to warn them, but again, this is a lesson that is going to have to be learned by the people of New York City, and it's going to be a hard one to learn. It's going to be a painful one to learn, but it's going to be an important one for them to learn. And so I think a lot of people after this election, I hope they learn the definition of what socialism actually is. I hope they learn the history of socialism all throughout the world, because I think if they had known that, the schools had taught that, we wouldn't be where we are right now in the city of New York.
Now, yesterday was a poor day for the Republicans. They lost not only New York City, but they lost in New Jersey, they lost in Virginia, and they lost with really decent margins. I guess New York City you can't count because there wasn't even a Republican option there. What do you see as the main reason behind these poor results?
Well, I'll say these states are Democrat states. Virginia hasn't had a Republican win, the presidential contest there since 2004. You look at, the state of New Jersey, also a similarly very blue state. I think blue states vote for like blue states. I think there was momentum at certain junctures of the race, but you can't really go against those political headwinds, much, right? And so I think that at the end of the day, I think this is a call to action for Republicans to not rest on our laurels as we approach the midterms. They're going to be a lot more favorable to us, and especially as I think President Trump's economic agenda begins to take shape and take effect, where we're going to see the lowering of prices across the board. And I think the president's message will be simple. It's about affordability. It's about bringing the cost of living in America down so that everyone can afford the American dream. That's how we're going to ensure that we not only grow our majority in the Senate, but also do so in the House. And so I think that it's a wake-up call for Republicans, but I don't think we should read too much into it. Again, these are Democrat states that voted for Democrats. I'm not surprised at all.
Well, that is a good point. They are Democrat states, and young women are responsible for much of what we saw in Virginia, New Jersey, New York City. They overwhelmingly backed the leftist options, and women in general, CJ, backed people like Abigail Spanberger for governor of Virginia, while most men voted for the Republican woman, Winsome Earl Sears. And we saw in New York City, women and foreign-born voters really get behind Zohran Mamdani.
No, you're exactly right there, Rita. And what I would say to that is that I've oftentimes said that white liberal women will be the death of our republic if we don't get serious about, somehow changing their minds about a lot of these issues. And, what I'll tell you is that after the passing of Charlie Kirk, I saw someone point out the fact that we hope that Erica Kirk will be able to do for young women what Charlie Kirk was able to do with young men. And I think that, if she's able to do that, I think that's how we right this ship. That's how we turn the tide to ensure that we can save this country, because it truly is unsettling what we're seeing among that demographic. And it's not too late now, but it may be in a few more election cycles. So we've got to do the work to reach them where they are.
I've got to say, I'm really concerned about how this goes as far as societal changes, because you've got young men increasingly leaning right. You've got young women leaning heavily left, so often radical left. How is that going to work? How are these people going to find lifelong partners and spouses when their values are so fundamentally different? Politics isn't everything, but we're talking about consequential issues here. Now, just quickly on Virginia, they did elect Democrat Abigail Spanberger, and she beat a Republican woman, Winsome Earl Sears. And what was really interesting here was Barack Obama campaigning for Abigail against a black woman after he told black men they were sexist for not backing Kamala. And incredibly, the NCAAP campaigned for that Democrat too. That's the National Association for the Advancement of Coloured People campaigning against a coloured woman.
Well, see, Rita, the thing about these people that it's important to understand is that they don't actually just like black people. They only like black people that they can control, right? And so Winsome Earl Sears was not someone that they could control, so they didn't like her. They could control Kamala Harris. They could control Michelle Obama. They could control many of those other folks that, toe their party line. But Winsome Sears was a independent thinker. She was a free thinker, and that scared them more than anything at all. And so they were willing to go against their own public statements from 2024, willing to go against their own public statements even today to support Abigail Spanberger, who is really not have a record that is worthy of any type of commendation at all. So again, these people are hypocrites. They expose themselves every single day. And I say this oftentimes, I think, when I'm with you, is that when someone shows who they are, believe them the first time. And the Democrats have shown us time and again who they are. And it's the most blatant and unapologetic hypocrites on the face of the earth.
Now, Donald Trump has reaffirmed his commitment to help persecuted Christians in Nigeria. He had this to say earlier today.
Christianity is facing an existential threat in Nigeria. Thousands and thousands of Christians are being killed. Radical Islamists are responsible for this mass slaughter. I am hereby making Nigeria a country of particular concern. That's a legal definition. When the Christians or any such group is slaughtered, like is happening in Nigeria, 3,100 versus 4,476 worldwide. What horrible numbers. Something has to be done. I am asking Congressman Riley Moore, together with Chairman Tom Cole and the House Appropriations Committee, to immediately look into this matter and to report back to me. And I mean, like, immediately. The United States cannot stand by while such atrocities are happening in Nigeria and numerous other countries. It's not only Nigeria, it's all over. We stand ready, willing, and able to save our great Christian population around the world. This is not going to happen. The killing of Christians is not going to happen.
The US will not stand by while such atrocities are happening in Nigeria. You mentioned other parts of Africa. What did you think of that statement from the president, CJ?
I think it's incredible to see, him highlight an issue that for a long time has been ignored by the mainstream media on both the left and the right, to be quite frank with you, right? And so I think that to see him standing up for Christians all around the world, we are a nation that it's one nation under God. I think this is a testament to that. There is no reason that you should be, a subject of genocide simply because of your Christian faith in any corner of the world. And I think many people in this country stand with our president in his pursuit of ensuring that people are able to freely express their faith, whatever that may be.
Now, CJ, The Guardian appears to be upset that Donald Trump has threatened Nigeria with a military strike for this persecution, for the slaughter of Christians. The Guardian claims the US president's remarks about alleged persecution of Christians is seemingly in response to pressure from his evangelical base. I mean, I would have thought it was over the slaughter of innocent Christians, including women and children.
I would have thought so too, and I guarantee you if his statements had been about Muslims, they would have had no problem with that.
Well said, CJ Pearson. Thank you so much for your time tonight.
Good to see you.